So here's the thing. What exactly would the ultimate deal for DACA look like when it's all said and done? My panel joins me now, former aide to Senator Chuck Schumer and Progressive Radio host Christopher Hahn, former chief of staff for Senator Mike Lee, and the Sutherland Institute president Boyd Matheson. Also with us, U.S. Arizona State Treasurer Jeff DeWit, who also happens to be the former COO of the Trump campaign and currently serves on the Donald J. Trump for President Advisory Board. Jeff, let me start with you. It feels like there's going to be a deal. It feels like this program won't end and all 800,000 DACA folks on the DACA program are deported. So, having said that, what will the ultimate deal be?
Well, first, let me say, and great to see you, Charles. First, let me say that this shows the genius of Donald Trump. Congress has been in a staring contest about these issues for over half a decade. And what he does is repeals the current DACA and puts a 6-month time window on it, and all of a sudden everybody's scrambling to make a deal. So he did get everyone to the table. Now, the one thing they tell you, don't forget down here, is the two things you never want to see made are sausage and laws. And we have the most transparent negotiating process we may have ever seen. I think a final deal, as you saw, will include a wall. To paraphrase, if there's no wall, there's no deal. That's one of the top ticket items for President Trump.
I didn't hear that.
And so we're going to see it. We're going to see the wall come in, and I don't know the rest of the parts of the deal, but I know we're getting a wall out of it.
Boyd, you've written extensively on this topic, and you've talked about the necessity of actually getting this done. So to Jeff's point, this is brilliant. It's lingered over our heads for a long period of time. We're going to finally get this thing done. But beyond the wall, what will these DACA kids have? Will they be allowed to vote? Will they be allowed to work in government? Should they have access to Social Security? What sort of rights should they have or should they not have?
Yeah, I think the most important thing the president stated is that these are people. These are contributing members to our society, and we need to treat them that way. The one thing that we know for certain is that America's rule of law and American compassion are what has taken a nice melting pot and turned it into an extraordinary country. And I think what we have to look at is the way President Trump has done this. The way he has done this recognizes that both the left and the right have been using immigration to raise hundreds of millions of dollars for political campaigns for way too long. And so by forcing this issue, by forcing this conversation, hopefully it gets us on a much better path in terms of dealing with what should those rights be. I think all of that's going to take care of itself because we will balance rule of law with American compassion.
Well, Chris, having said that, listen, we can pat ourselves on the back all day long. We all love America, and we know why it catapulted to the top of the world. But by the same token, I think a lot of people out there watching are saying we need to draw a line in the sand. If we do allow these kids, now some of them as old in their 30s, to stay, why is that not a green light for more illegal immigration? Why does that not open the floodgates for people who don't live in this country to come here and say, well, I've got a way to anchor myself to the United States of America?
Well, look, I mean, again, it depends on who you want to hold responsible for those choices. These people that are here now were brought here as infants and young children.
Right. We all know that, but I'm saying, what's to stop a flood after this is done?
Charles, nothing's going to stop people from coming to a country that gives them opportunities. There are economic forces driving people to this country, and we need to develop a system that addresses and embraces those economic forces. It's when they stop wanting to come here, Charles, that we should worry about it. Right now, they want to come here, and they're going to continue to come here, and Congress needs to get to work to deal with that and address it comprehensively. Now, look, I applaud President Trump for trying to get Congress to the table to do that. I also applaud him from separating DACA from the wall, which I think your first guest here kind of misconstrued here. He said at a later date we'll discuss the wall. Right now they're going to discuss DACA and the 800,000 lives in the balance.
Hold on one second, guys, because President Trump did speak a lot today, and he did bring this up in terms of border security. Let the audience take a listen to what the president had to say.
The wall, at some point, they're going to have to. They cannot obstruct the wall. The wall, to me, is vital. If I don't get the wall, then we will become the obstruction.
So, Jeff, this sounds like it backs up the point that you made, that any sort of deal with DACA would be contingent upon a deal for the wall, that there's a quid pro quo thing here, and one without the other. Listen, I understand where you're coming, Chris, and you're shaking your head, and perhaps the term border security is not. I know border security sounds like a euphemism for the wall, but I think it was pretty clear by the end of the day, by this show, Jeff, that the president wants a wall as part of this deal.
Well, we know. We learned. We've been down this road before. 1986, 31 years ago, the Immigration Reform Act signed by President Ronald Reagan promised a wall in exchange for giving some forms of amnesty out. And the amnesty went out. We never got a wall. Congress never had the guts to follow through on it. So we've all been down this road. I think now what we need to see is let's build a wall, and then we can talk about anything else. And don't forget, there's nothing that says there has to be amnesty for these people. There can also be permanent legal residence. There's other issues that can be discussed, other negotiating topics. It does not have to be amnesty. And there are a lot of people out there against amnesty. Well, the bottom line is we have to take care of American citizens first.
That's another thing, Boyd, that President Trump made very clear today, that this is not amnesty. Again, it does get back to perhaps the greater good of the American public and our consciousness and our, and just the way we are as people and as a nation. But by the same token, I think the idea of calling it amnesty or even having that be the underscoring, it's a dangerous path to go down because, again, we're sending a signal to other folks out there that you can come here and you don't have to leave.